All right, give it up one more time for D-Dubb. He is always awesome. He always plays here, so if you like that, please continue to come check us out on the first Saturdays. Up next, we have Mike Cecconi, wonderful local favorite here. Oh yeah, I had a joke I was going to say. I want a video of D-Dubb doing the second song, like in him just rehearsing it. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Oh yeah, it was that fun. I had to stop and laugh 100 times when I was doing that. I really did.
Hi everybody. I'm Mike Cecconi. I do mostly poetry and comedy. If I had known he was going to be doing that Tom Petty song, I would have brought my parody of it, which is about Superman's last dance with Lois Lane because he accidentally kills her with super sex. But this is a family thing anyway, so super sex, you know, he loses control of his powers. I'm going to do a couple short poems, a couple longer poems. Thank you all so much for listening. The first one's going to be intentionally funny. The others, I don't know, it's been a rough week in America. I don't feel quite as funny as I sometimes do. This is called The Past Is Not Even Past. Imagine if reincarnation turns out to be real, and then we figure out a way to exactly determine who everyone was in all of their past lives. And then they hold you up to the standards of all of your past lives. They hold you up to the standard of whoever the most successful person you ever were was. Hey, Cleopatra, working at Arby's, huh? Alexander the Great, going to night school. Plato, selling meth outside the Herkimer Dollar General. Life is a hellmouth of fear and regret enough. Then you find out you were Mark Twain and Shakespeare and Benjamin Franklin, and you're living in your childhood bedroom. Hey, Bard! How's the state-assisted health care, huh? Or whatever. You know, just for example. I, for one, hope we never find out. One lifetime of sins and failings is enough for me to deal with anyway. On some days, it's too much to begin with as it is. So that's that.
Very
good. If you like what I do, or if you know someone you don't like who'd be offended by what I do, sometimes I host the spoken word night at the Tram Cafe in Utica. This week I'm going to be the MC of their spoken word night. Come up there, 7 o'clock Thursday, out on Lincoln Ave in Utica. We have a spoken word night. If you want to come out, join us. Get a coffee here in Little Falls first, then come out to Utica and share some poems or short stories or a little stand-up comedy set if you think you know some jokes. This is called Off the Air. There used to be television sign-off times after midnight or 1 somewhere, when a station would play a national anthem or some prayer, then the channel there would just stop, cut out to a rainbow and a dial tone for 4 hours or maybe 5, only to restart around sunrise. There were times when the television set said, "The world is pausing for a while. It is time to sleep, or maybe have sex then sleep," but sleep was surely part of it. The television used to tell us, it is okay to stop and rest for a little while. Here are 4 or 5 hours when nothing important is happening. You don't have to think about the big problems for a while. It's okay. You've earned this. It sounds unbelievably quaint now for a ritual. It sounds like something the Amish would do, who only eschew technology between the end of David Letterman and the start of the Morning Farm Report. But I swear to God, back then it seemed natural. Before the internet, before CNN gave us a 24-hour report on whatever war is going on, it seemed like the order of how things would always work. Even though television had only been around for 40 or 50 years, and the idea of a television station that would tell us it's okay to rest for a while would only last for another 20. Still, when we were there, and as it was, it seemed permanent. A fun and terrible quirk of our short lives combined with only an intermittent consciousness thereof is that what was ever considered normal when we were young is considered in our minds to be past and future permanent forever. And so we're left to change or find a way to fill in the gap. So I say let's make a 4-hour loop of that rainbow pattern and the beep. Let's play it on YouTube on our phones and our laptops from 1:30 in the morning to 5:30 at dawn. We can pretend together that there's a time when we're allowed to rest. And then maybe we'll feel like there's a time to be on again.
Yeah.
This is something I wrote recently about the harvest moon this week. This is called You Will Go to the Moon. The moon above all else is above all else. She hangs up there, languid and waiting. People have been there, but only for a little while, and only pushing the very limits of what a human being can do. We only broke her haughty loneliness for a handful of hours. She will continue to be up there in the night sky while you linger on her beauty. But she will be lamenting equally that she can only reflect the light of the sun, the light of someone else, and lament the distance between her and all of us, her overnight admirers. She will pull at the tides without thinking it, without knowing she was doing it at all. If you were to mention to the moon the waxing and the waning of the seas, she would respond, "Yeah, that's beautiful and weird. I wonder what does that." If you told her she did that, she would not believe you. She would never know that you could create such a hypnotic charge from so far away on accident. Because the moon, above all else, is above all else. She does not know that she is airless. She does not know that she lacks food for us to eat. The moon doesn't understand what breath is. The moon does not understand hunger. But she waits for us regardless. And we, as well, we wait for her too. Thank you. I have time for one more piece. One other thing I'd like to share is that another cafe that's part of our scene, the Tram, that does their Sunday night open mics, they've announced that their 10th anniversary their 10th anniversary celebration is going to be at the Stanley Theater on January 14th. And I'm going to get to be one of the MCs. So I'm going to get to introduce acts on that stage, which is really, really cool. Of course, it's months away. The people there haven't figured out what acts they're going to have involved, but I'm probably going to get to be up there like announcing 8 or 9 local wonderful acts from all over the Mohawk Valley. And it's real cool. So, if the second weekend of January you're free, go out to the Stanley for like 7 hours of music and performance. I think it's only like a $10 ticket. And I get to be on that stage. That's so awesome. I wanted to share the good news with y'all. So this last piece is about, I went to the Herkimer Kmart on one of the last days of its clearance sale. And I thought about what that meant for my life. And this is called Sympathy for the Devil We Knew, Not the Devil We Didn't. I went to a Kmart going out of business sale to mourn a kind of America that has passed by. Maybe no less evil in its consumerism, but certainly less invasive. When at least the rich people were worried about making your money off your kids in 20 years, not just this financial quarter. When at least the rich people lived in a mansion at the edge of town, instead of a bunker 2,000 miles away in Silicon Valley or Bentonville, Arkansas. Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life would be small potatoes compared to them. He'd be lost and aghast at the culture vulture capitalists we suffer under now. Kmart was an older evil, that at least had some sense of time and place, could still exist with small businesses, didn't put them under, didn't kill them, and whole cities along the way just to jump up another stock tick. I got my first He-Man figures at Kmart in Herkimer. I got my G.I. Joes, my bicycles, my clothes. I got my sense of what the world was there. So Godspeed, Herkimer Kmart. Godspeed to your long-gone lunch counter stale popcorn sandwiches. Godspeed blue light specials that made us feel like maybe there are still miracles in the world. Godspeed Garden Center with your million strange and musty scents. Godspeed to the world that I grew up in, that felt as though it had no beginning and no end, that Kmart was always there and would always be there, but now is gone. Godspeed because the monsters in the world were smaller back then. Back then, at least the monsters knew when they were full. Back then, the monsters knew you could only eat so many villagers if you wanted them to have children so you could eat again in 18 years. Monsters had a modicum of perspective back then, buried now beneath stained linoleum floors. In retrospect, there were spaces to escape the monsters then, and there were good times to be had in the spaces in between. I went to a Kmart going out of business sale to mourn a way of life I grew up alongside, a way of life I thought was always going to be. And then I drove back home, past the War Mart selling smiles and flags and guns all made in China, to prick my hands and check my blood sugar because I am changing too. I'm diabetic now, the doctor says. I have consumed too much and am now at risk of destroying myself, just like those bigger monsters in America, consuming too much, killing little local Kmarts. I have to get my sugar down. I just kept eating until I started to hurt my insides. So I am America, I suppose. I went to Kmart to visit myself. Thank you.